All right, welcome to the Underdog Ecom podcast, where two ecom brand founders are figuring out in real time.
Yeah, we're not here to preach. We're here in the thick of it, making mistakes, testing all sorts of ideas, and really sharing the journey of how we've been growing these brands from day zero. Hopefully you learn a little bit, perhaps come away with some ideas that save you time and money. And so if you're tired of the same glittery D2C advice from those 9-figure gurus, you're here in the right place.
Let's get into it. Okay, well, welcome to episode 9. And this episode's gonna be fun. We're talking about ads, going into ad accounts, what we're seeing working, a lot of the stuff we're not seeing working, which is most of it probably, at least from my side. But I think ads are a really interesting one because people really get stuck in this a lot, and we're living and breathing that as well. And I think it's interesting to kind of just share what's going on, how we're dealing with it in real time. So but anyway, let's start off with like how's the last week been, David, for you?
A little crazy. I've got a little toddler that refuses to nap and then gets really mad that he's not napping. But overall, like it's been a wild time last couple of weeks. There's the whole tariff thing that seems like it changes every 2 seconds. So I'm not really tracking that day to day just because I don't have ability. But I've been deep in, product development, working on some pretty sweet new products. So I haven't let the tariffs fully kibosh my desire there or my ability. So we'll see if I can bring them to market, but I'm working on some sweet, like lightweight fleece pullovers that I may or may not be teasing right now. Some sweet athletic shorts that I'm actually also wearing. Worked on some fun short form videos for all of that, trying to do a little bit more behind the scenes, point of view founder type videos, which I feel like I'm actually better at making than all of the other like brand marketing videos. So maybe I'll do more of that if it starts to pick up for the brand. Actually been spending most of my time coding for clients and doing a lot of client work. So I've got some really big projects and really fun stuff I've been working on. So I've kind of been splitting my time a lot lately, but it's been interesting. I also, for National Park Week, I started running a big BOGO sale, and I've seen a lot of uplift from BOGO sales in the past. It's a pretty high percentage in terms of like a discount rate, but it really, like, customers, it seems like my prices are pretty elastic. And so like people they buy a lot when it's heavily discounted. And so I've been taking advantage of that to try and clear out some inventory and just generate a lot of sales, and also have been digging in deep with Facebook ads a lot more than I usually have. So that is perfect for this episode. How's it going for you, Jack?
It's been going been okay. Kind of jet lagged. I've been flying, but I wanted to say I've been watching all of your stuff is coming up my feed at the moment on all your short form videos, and like I'm jealous, I have to say, because you do it so well. Honestly, I think you do the founder videos really, really well in terms of product dev, in terms of like sharing that journey. I loved the video you did the other day of with like taking pretending to take all the professional photos. Was it? Yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. It was definitely not my original idea, as is social media, but like it was a cool idea I saw someone else take. And whenever I'm scrolling through social, I try and just record ideas that I see that pop up in the feed and that sort of thing. And so I kind of got an ongoing list of things that are like, hey, I want to kind of do this or do my take on this and that. I also had a fun picture the other day that I made using GPT, and it was a billboard outside a sort of famous area that has a ton of tulips here in the Northwest. And the text said, "We ran out of budget for a Coachella billboard, so hi from Skagit Valley." Which Coachella, I think, was last weekend. So it was kind of like on trend and on point. Yeah, right. I thought it was pretty hilarious. And a couple people did too, so it was worth it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I need to get more into that stuff. I always struggle with that because I think I first of all, I should be doing more of that. And I've got samples that come in all the time, and I should like tease it more like you do, because I think it's a really good strategy. I also don't know how, I don't know whether someone should lean into that entirely and just do it all the time, or whether it can get too samey. I don't know. I think maybe it depends on your audience a little bit. But whenever I see your content, it sort of gives me inspiration to go and be like, okay, I need to do this as well, because I always kind of feel like people are getting bored of my face. But then I don't know. I just think your content really is really great the way you do it. So yeah, it shows it works.
Thanks. Well, it sort of works. I don't know if it's like super successful at this point, but it's fun. And I think my advice would be like, do what you like doing. I think that
Mm.
is what, and social media, excuse me, has changed so much over the last couple of years and even the last like 5+ years, actually. And I think a lot of times people now buy from people more than like anonymous brands or whatever. And so that's kind of why I've done it a little bit more, because I've felt that shift. And it's just, I have more fun. Like I had way more fun yesterday. I put out here's a deep dive on my shorts prototype round 2. And I had like more fun making that than any of the brand type videos. And so I'm kind of just trying to like lean into what I enjoy doing, what I like doing. And I'm still going to make videos for the brand. And I do struggle with like, should this be on the brand account? Should this be on my own account that I'm kind of transforming into the founder account on Instagram? I don't know, but I'm just kind of going and leaning into it. It is time consuming. Like the video I made for the shorts deep dive was, I think, a minute and a half, but it probably took me like an hour to film and edit and everything like that.
Oh.
So it's definitely time consuming, and it's on kind of a part of it. Part of it hurts because it's like, oh man, one video, one whole hour, maybe more, gone, done, video posted, and on to the next thing. It's just like
Yeah, then it
kind of feels like a
disappears.
rat race.
Yeah, it really does feel like a rat race. It really does feel like a race. But yeah, I think you're doing the right thing. But yeah, I think from my side, I'm in Vietnam at the
The
moment.
future.
The future, I'm really ahead of David right now, at least in time. So I'll tell him what's happening, and then I'll tell him about the tariffs before he knows. No.
Perfect.
No, if only. Um, so yeah, so it's been kind of fun here. Yesterday I'm visiting some suppliers and stuff, and some like I've actually got some cool videos of like how they make little buckles on our bag and like machine tooling them and stuff. So it was really cool to see. So I'm not just visiting like the manufacturers, but also like the actual component suppliers for some of the parts of our bags. So it's pretty cool. Yesterday was very tiring, traveling a lot. Well, the day before yesterday I was traveling like it felt like more than 24 hours. I don't know how long it was, but it felt like more than 24 hours to get here. And then yesterday I was all day at a couple of different factories. So today was a bit more chilled. I've been working a bit. I've been exploring the city a little bit, and then I'm off again. But yeah, so I think I've been trying. It's always tough when you're traveling as well, trying to like run the business, travel, be present where you are as well, and try and make the most of it is kind of difficult. But yeah, it's a nice change of scene.
Yeah, I totally feel that, where it's like, because you're the solo operator, you still have to run the business, but also you're doing all these other things. Like, it's not really a vacation, but it's like the same type of frame of mind where you're like totally removed in some ways from the normal scene, and you're
Yeah,
uh full time. That's definitely like a full time kind of gig where you're investigating all these factories and talking with the people and building the relationships and digging into all that. So that is tricky. I've tried to. That's another thing I've actually been working on over the last month or two, is trying to like automate more things. And anytime I'm like, oh, you know what? I file my own shipping insurance claims when USPS loses people's orders, which happens all the time. I should train my VA on that and like
yeah.
just offload as much as I can and build processes out and build tracking so it's not in my head and that sort of thing. And so I don't know, it's just a good reminder that like it doesn't all need to go through us, although as the pinnacle of the bus driver driving the bus, you kind of still have to be in charge, but there's still hopefully some things that can be offloaded or just systemized to be better.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good segue into ads because I've always thought about outsourcing ads, and of course the agencies, but other than agencies, in terms of if
Mhm.
you get someone on your team, if you've got like some contractors you're working with, or if you've got a couple of team members or whatever it is, I've always struggled to offload ads because it seems so volatile that I just don't feel like I could trust somebody else, even though I'm not saying that I do it unbelievably well. It's just that I'm so connected to every other area of the business, and I imagine you feel the same, that it's hard to just leave someone else to put your money somewhere. It's really hard. Whereas other areas of the business don't feel like that so much. I think that's why ads are so difficult because it's make or break every single day,
Yeah.
especially at our level. A couple of days of losing money can be detrimental. So, or at least losing a lot of money. So yeah, I've actually got a funny story about that. Before we get into ads, speaking of ads, I woke up this morning. Okay, this is just the worst thing. I woke up this morning. I forgot to tell you about this. I would have told you about this off air because I was gunning to tell you this and I forgot. So
Cool.
like the shop app, like Shopify app ads, right? So I've had these running for ages, and I mean,
Yeah.
orders come in occasionally. I don't see much happen with it. When they first launched this, I thought amazing, and then it kind of
Mm-hmm.
orders just kind of come in occasionally. It didn't really.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot I was like messing around like months ago, and I set up. I was like, I can't. I wonder if I just like set up a campaign where I had like quite a low ROAS and like whether I would even sales will come in that way. You know what I mean? I was just like testing it out, thinking like even if I was basically like giving away product, would they take it? And I forgot I left this campaign on because it wasn't making sales. 30 sales last night, all through
Dang.
shop cash acquired sales, meaning like I've
Wow.
lost money on every single, well, maybe broken even on every single one of those orders, and I've got to go and ship that. We've got to ship those now. I just was like, I
Wow.
woke up this morning, I was like, what are all these orders? I thought amazing, and I thought, oh no.
Wow. Wow. Dang. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Crazy.
it,
Good
it
but bad. But
it
good.
must have something to
That's
do with it must have something to do with the algorithm or something. They just like suddenly showed our page like tons of people because I've had this. I didn't even remember I left this thing on because it's been like 3 months, and like I
yeah.
only have sales come in occasionally. I had like a couple of campaigns running, and yeah, suddenly I just had like 20, like more than 20, probably 30 sales.
Um this is really good because when we talk about ads here, we want to be open and transparent and like try and
Yeah,
share and help people as much as we can and share like the mistakes. Obviously, that's the whole theme of the podcast, but share the mistakes that we've done in the past. So specifically, I'm curious like what your numbers look like because I've also been running shop cash campaigns for a while. Granted, I didn't turn on like a super low ROAS one and let it run for many
yeah,
months.
yeah.
But I'm curious, like what do those numbers look like for you?
I'll bring that up. So I mean, up until now, I mean, generally speaking, it's been slow. I don't know whether
Hmm.
certain categories do better than others. But for me with shop, I think shop is going to be bigger. I think it's going to be a good opportunity in the future. But I see. Yeah. So I think I'm getting in. Yeah. So yeah, I did $4,000 worth of sales last night. $4,200 at a 0.86 ROAS. So yeah, I lost money. I've lost money. And then all the other ones are like one campaign got one sale, like another campaign got one sale, another campaign got two sales, like at a 2 ROAS, at a 1.4 ROAS, at a 1.3 ROAS. So I've tried various different campaigns. Like and they've all just got like one sale a go. Maybe I had one campaign that did $1,000 worth of sales at a 1.5 ROAS. Like not ideal because like you probably do that through Facebook. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, and to be clear, like I've kind of heard that's the thing with the shop app and their ads is like it's a very small pool that they're running the ads in kind of thing, especially compared to Meta. And so what's nice is you kind of set it and forget it and you don't have to run through the creative testing and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy them. And I set up mine. I'm looking at this. Like I set up a bunch. I have 3 running right now. I set them back up in October. And even so, on a high level, actually, it shows me the last 30 days. Last 30 days, I've got a 1.7 ROAS, 12 customers acquired, AOV of like 47, sales of 560, spend of 330. So okay, not like amazing, but it's kind of nice because that set it and forget it mentality, and it's kind of like if it works, if it can acquire someone, it will based on your targets, and so it's cost controlled, which is probably better. You don't want like a high volume type campaign for this type of audience. I think like audience totals, the total TAM basically of the ads. Diving into them specifically, I've got 2 acquire type ads. One's a 35 CPA with a 1.5 ROAS. That's achieved that ROAS. It's a 1.7 and it's got me 50 plus customers with
Okay.
sales of like close to 3K. And then the other acquire campaign is a 25 CPA with a 2 ROAS, so a little bit more aggressive in terms of return. A lot less sales, $156, 3 customers.
Okay.
The ROAS is 2.89 there. So both of them are above that target ROAS. So maybe I could drop my target ROAS a little bit lower and it could achieve a little bit better. And then I've got a win back campaign that's set at 25 CPA with a 2 ROAS. That's generated on the lower side than the acquire campaign. It's got $500 in sales, It has achieved the ROAS target. It's got a 2.4 ROAS with 12 customers. So like you're saying, like very low customer acquisition total numbers, but being able to hit those ROAS and
That
not
guaranteed,
spend
yeah.
a whole ton, pretty nice. Yeah, the guaranteed ROAS is, I really like it. Now I'm thinking about like, oh, maybe I should lower these numbers.
Yeah, I
Sweet.
mean,
Yeah.
it's not ideal, but I guess, I mean, I don't like, this is not the way I like to think, but when I saw that this morning, first of all, I was like ecstatic because I thought they were actually just like sales from like some,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, someone left a review somewhere or something. And then
Yeah.
we got loads of sales in. Then I realized it wasn't. And I realized we probably lost money on those sales. And I thought, well, the worst comes to worst, 13 more customers now that we can,
Mm-hmm.
that hopefully come back at least as portion of those again. So who
Mm-hmm.
knows? I do
What's
think
your
there's certain
repeat?
categories. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, what's your repeat customer rate? Like, what's the chance that they come back?
Um, I think it depends on the timeline because our bags are I mean we're about 25% repeat customer rate, which I think
Mm-hmm.
over is not great in overall, but in our category is probably not bad because we're durable goods that technically people don't need to buy more of.
Yeah, that's
So
better than I would expect for your category. So
yeah, I think it's not terrible, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah, I think that's so it's not too bad. So I guess maybe 25% hopefully of those. I mean I don't know what shop like Shopify shop customers are like in terms of whether they're just looking for deals the whole time and buy anything or whether they end up like liking the brand and coming back. We'll have to see. But I was going to say I do think it's quite category specific because I do think that um, I think lower AOV is going to do well or better on there because it's like first of all you're getting a discount off and second of all it's not a big purchase to begin with, so it's a win-win. Why not take the risk sort of thing? Whereas on bigger orders you might get a bigger discount, but you're still forking out more money for something that's like a bigger purchase sort of thing. So I don't know. I think it will see, but there's some brands I hear are doing really well with it, but I hopefully it continues to be a bigger thing.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it only getting better. It feels like Shopify is holistically only getting better at things, and their pool is growing of merchants and customers and that sort of thing. And they're focusing more on these sort of like auxiliary channels like Shop. And I actually, as a anecdotally as a consumer, like I go to Shop first to look to purchase from brands typically, and will like oftentimes wait for those deals and not necessarily purchase otherwise, and like want to kind of just, I almost use it as kind of like an Amazon, which I think is kind of their vision for it, where it's like, all right, I
Yeah.
want this. I'm just going to go buy it on Shop, and you get the Shop cash back, which is nice, and you can use it and that sort of thing. And so being more discount minded right now, like it's a pretty nice platform for me to use on a personal level, but who knows how many people are like me. Probably a few, but probably not a lot.
Yeah,
um,
I think
cool.
as they get a bigger audience, in terms of more Shopify stores, same thing with like
Hmm.
customer accounts with Shopify. The more like just volume of have people getting used to using it, the more
Hmm.
useful it becomes. So we'll see.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Should we move on to the big
The big
fish?
one. Yeah.
There's this, I don't know if people know, there's this platform called Meta, formerly known as Facebook, that owns like 5 gajillion eyeballs every day. Pretty much owns humanity.
Yeah.
Turns out you can advertise on their platform because that's like literally all they do. I haven't. Someone asked me the other day, like, if I go to the Facebook home feed or like why I don't see things on it. I was like, because I don't go to that ever.
No.
Sorry, I'm not 60 plus. No offense, but
Yeah.
um, so yeah, we wanted to dig into these details a little bit, kind of share what we've done. I guess I can kick it off.
Yep.
I feel like Facebook ads has been a thorn in my side for many years. And Jackie mentioned earlier hiring agencies to do it and stuff. I've actually, because I don't love the platform and I don't love, for whatever reason, I just don't love being in it. And that's not the best mentality to have as a founder, as a solo operator. I know that because it's like the gas pedal for like 98% of businesses, mine included, is Meta ads. And so for years, I've struggled with it as just one of the acquisition channels. And I remember hiring an agency. They were doing it as like a favor, friend of a friend kind of thing. Like, but it was insane. Like my budgets at that time were probably like $10 to $20 a day or something. And I'm sure they
Mm.
set up different testing campaigns and all sorts of stuff. And so I think with Facebook ads, it's so hard because there's copious amounts of information out there and like tips and tricks and especially in the D2C world where it's like, this is the way, the truth, and the light, and here's what you need to do. Here's all the things. Like but it's hard because it's like one person says this is absolutely what you need to do, bid caps or whatever, for example, and then the other person's like, no, this is absolutely what you need to do, highest volume. So it's really hard to distill down what works, and I think a lot of it is just figuring out what works for your brand, which
Yeah.
is hard, especially for us underdogs, because it's like, this is money that could be really used elsewhere. It's not like we have a ton of cash sitting around. So that's what I've learned. A lot of it is like figuring out what works for your brand, figuring out what works for you in terms of workflow. Don't hire an agency, don't hire a freelancer. That's really expensive until you get to a certain point. I don't think it's worth it because you have to really like figure out what works for the brand and what works for you. And you can keep things simple. I know that like Bart from Dad Gang talks about a lot about keeping things as simple as possible. And I think that he's pretty lucky where he has like the most insane product market fit ever. And so, yes, I think you can do that to a certain point and not like try and go crazy with it, but it's difficult, and it's difficult to figure out what works for the brand. And so that's kind of what I've struggled with over the years. And that's what I would say like to other underdogs out there is like, don't hire the agency. You need to figure out how it works before you can properly like audit an agency, for example, and figure out if they're actually worth it. Cause I know that there's agencies get a bad rap, and I think for good reason, but also there's a good reason why they exist. And I have long dreamed about hiring a freelancer to run my ads. And I've even had people step in and help me out based on Twitter connections and stuff. And it's never really panned out. And I feel like I've spent so much money on Facebook and haven't seen the return. Like I think I looked at my numbers last year and it was like 106,000 or something spent on Facebook acquisition, like specifically to that channel. And the return on
Yeah.
that was not 2 ROAS for sure, maybe 1.5, if that. So like with cogs and everything in the situation, it's a losing channel for me. And that's still been an unlock up until actually probably this month. I've felt like I haven't had a successful campaign on there for the long run. Um, and so what I've been figuring out is specifically for my brand, what's been working is ads for hoodies over the last month or so. Like I have had different strategies campaign wise over the years. Right now I'm working on, and I've had different campaigns running for low budgets, which I know is not the most desirable. And I've consolidated campaigns in the past and it hasn't worked as well as I would think. Like I didn't hit my target ROAS, didn't hit my target CPA. But lately I've been working on splitting off campaigns into product specific things because I've got products that range from $4 to $80. And so having campaigns that are more focused on a specific either ideal customer persona or product category, which is the route I'm going. That's what I've heard from other apparel people that is a good way to go. So my hoodie campaign has been great, and I've been slowly increasing that budget starting at $50. I think it's now up to like 120, and that's been maintaining. Like I can pull up the actual numbers. Like it's been doing quite well. And
So,
the only other campaign that's
okay.
sorry, I was going to say
No, I
the
was
other
gonna,
campaigns that have done well for me in the past have been products focused as well, where it's like I had a jacket campaign, and then I've got a sales campaign for when I run sales. And those are the two other ones that I've got over 2 ROAS on. That's been good.
yeah. So because I've always struggled with this as well in terms of whether you just put everything into one campaign, because especially when Meta's saying like consolidated budgets, consolidated campaigns, not even that many ad sets or none at all, just put everything into one campaign. Like a lot of the time, that's what Meta's saying to do. And I've always struggled with this as well because especially when like say you've got maybe like a product for a very different type of audience as well, and you just even if not just like a different product, but maybe even an entirely different type of consumer, loading that into one campaign. But at the same time, you're thinking, well, yeah, but if I split that budget 4 ways, suddenly is one campaign even ever going to learn sufficiently or that sort of thing? So yeah, I mean, when you're doing that, do you just say like, right, I'm just gonna have to 4 times the budget, or do you just say, no, I'm gonna have to split the budget by 4 and just hope that it works, sort of thing, or split the budget by 2 or 3 or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think so. The multiple campaigns that I've ran in the past have been. I do think that's not ideal, and I do think you're like breaking off your target audiences into different buckets basically, which makes it harder for Facebook to hit those numbers that you want. And so I think that there's a lot of validity to consolidating campaigns as much as possible. In the past, when I've had, so I think like about a month ago, I had 4 campaigns running where it was like, here's a cost control, a cost cap campaign that's targeting specific products and inventory to clear out. And then same idea with the bid cap, because I've kind of been testing those for a while. And my thought with those is like they trigger when they trigger. And so it does work sometimes. And I've got some ads that work really well, but they lead to a lot of sticker purchases, which is like very, very not great for a cost of acquisition for a $4 sticker. And so I put that in so they're cost controlled campaigns to target more when it can hit certain ROAS and that sort of thing. And not have a crazy high cost of acquisition and return on it. And so those are been two of my campaigns. The other campaign that I sometimes turn on and off is for sales. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like that should be, it's more for analytics purposes, honestly. It's like separating that out for analytics so I can see specifically like what are the numbers on that and how does that compare to a normal campaign. That's what I've got going. I've got an ASC campaign going and then a broad campaign going and then a DPA, like a catalog type campaign, which has to be separate because it's a different type of Facebook campaign. So some of them are forced by the nature and the technical like feature set in the campaign where it's like, you can't have a broad CBO and a ASC. Like those are obviously different campaigns, so they have to be different campaigns. Talking through this and thinking about this, like I should probably run one for whatever 3 weeks and then stop it and then run the other one. Seasonality plays into all of this, so that's why I kind of run them concurrently a lot of times because 3 weeks from now it's going to be like summer buying mode versus right now it's like spring buying mode, and who knows if that actually really plays into it that much. I'm probably overemphasizing that in terms of data, but that's kind of what I've been running inside mine, and it's a lot of testing and failing. I feel like I'm sure you feel the same way sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through, if you don't mind. I think if you go through each campaign you're running, maybe let's go last 30 days or something like that, maybe, and like what you spent, ROAS, like what type of campaign it is, because I think that'd be good just to kind of visualize. Like, I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get nitty gritty. I don't know what sorting Facebook Ads Manager, worst software ever created by a company making $1 billion off of us every day. Yes. I'm sorting by amount spent, and my campaign that spent $500 is on top. No joke. Wow. I'm sure there's some reason for that, despite all the other campaigns spending more. Who knows? Anyways, so I returned on an older broad campaign of mine that has a bunch of winners in it, and it actually has other ad sets in it, but the winners is the only one that's spending.
So that's a cost cap, is it?
No, this is straight up CBO broad.
Oh, I see. It's just allocating all the spend to that winners ad set. Okay.
Yeah, it's highest volume and it's allocating all towards the winners. And let's see if I zoom out on it. So last 32 cost per purchase, not great. ROAS 1.24, which feels very in line with most of my ads where it's like, this is not good enough. So it's like I need to, and what I've been doing right now strategy wise is like logging in every morning, looking at stuff. It's so hard because I try and turn stuff off because my net spends are so low. Like most of my campaigns are $50 to $100 a day, which probably is too much if they're not working. And I think I've gotten that feedback before. And so I'm trying to be very low budget minded because you mentioned that earlier where it's the advice that people say, like, you have to spend a certain amount for it to work.
Yeah.
And so that's been hard. But I think I've spent too much for it not to work. And so I do try and log in every morning, check on budgets. If things are doing well, like if I'm getting 1.5 to 2 ROAS and a cost per purchase of 25 or lower, especially if it's a high priced product, then I'll increase that budget a little bit. But otherwise I'll try and turn off ads rather inside campaigns. If they meet double my AOV and spend and the numbers are sub 1.5 ROAS, I'll try and turn that off because it seems like that's just an unnecessary waste. On the other side of things, though, and here's where it's like everyone has different advice. This one time I left on an ad because some people say never turn off an ad.
Yeah.
And for like it was running for a couple months, not great returns, like around one probably ROAS. And then over the span of 2 to 3 weeks, it just went nuts. And it went like 3 to 4 ROAS. And I don't see those numbers ever. And except for like a few edge cases. And I was like, wow, this is a great case in point why you don't turn off an ad, because all of a sudden this boom turned out like a couple thousand probably in sales. But was it worth it at the end of the day if it was running for a couple of months? Probably not. I don't know. So
Well,
it's
the
so
thing as
hard.
well is even if it didn't, it could be running like top of funnel awareness, and then if you take that away, suddenly all the other ads aren't performing so well because they haven't.
Yeah.
They're performing more lower funnel stuff. This is why it's like
Yeah.
it's almost a game of roulette, really, because
Yeah.
I mean you can make an argument for just about anything
Yeah.
in meta ads. Like you really can. I mean, I could make that argument that that ad, even when it was not doing great ROAS, it's because it was reaching like net new people, and of course the ROAS is not going to be great, but it was spending a lot. If it's spending a lot, and if it's spending a lot and it's got a low ROAS, well, maybe that's because it's top of funnel, and the ones that have got not as much spend but high ROAS probably bottom of funnel. So maybe, I mean, it's just, this is what drives me insane, because you could argue that, and likewise you could say, yeah, but you can't be spending money on unprofitable ads. So who knows?
Yeah, and I've definitely had people swear by bid caps and cost caps where it's like, well, no, you don't want to spend unless it makes sense, kind of thing. Like you need to control your costs. And I totally get that for my level, but I'm also like, have other people saying, no, highest volume needs to be the route. Like that's what you have to do to scale and to get to the, like you want the control, you want to have predictability in terms of your spend and sales, because that helps provide stability when you analyze all the numbers and make sure that you can just kind of like monitor things on a high level. It's a lot easier when you know how much you're spending and roughly know how much you'll get from it.
Yeah, fundamentally, I have a problem with that as well, because I mean, I have, first of all, if I say this, I've done a lot of bid caps and cost caps with manual campaigns, with ASC, with target ROAS, with all that sort of stuff. And I just think, first of all, I think cost caps only really work if you've got massive awareness already, because I have not seen cost caps really spend that much money. And I've forced myself to spend 2 or 3 months just putting a lot of ads into campaigns, testing different things, seeing whether it's the creative and things like that. And I haven't seen it really move the needle. And I've definitely seen better performance on lower cost, because I mean, even with cost caps, I don't see the point of getting like 3 sales and having like a 6 ROAS. I just don't see the point of that. Like it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to help you grow. So that's the problem I have with cost caps. And not to say it's like wrong or right. I just think there are some brands it works for and some it don't. I think it's worth testing. I just think that for smaller brands, it is really hard to make work unless you're in like a viral category. If you're making, I don't know, creatine or something, like creatine powder everyone's talking about on TikTok, there's a chance that just because you're viral, like you're relevant right now, and you've got some good organic content, that cost caps can really work. But I do think they're targeting very high intent people. So they're probably, that means your top of funnel is somewhere else, like organic or wherever else. So yeah, that's the problem situation I've had with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that. Running through the other campaigns, because I feel like it's like already at 30 minutes. What the heck?
Oh
Running
gosh.
so slow. So I'll run through these. The other one that is spending a lot is my ASC campaign. Cost per purchase 52, ROAS 0.85. I need to look inside there and see what's going on. I've tried to turn some off if that's not doing that well, but that requires more digging. Then I've got my cost cap campaign, which has the idea of trying to move certain products more in a cost controlled environment. That's got a 39 cost per purchase with a 1.25 ROAS. My DPA has been doing better over the last couple weeks, but at the last 30 days, it's a 35 cost per purchase, 1.09 ROAS. And then so this is where I started to make some more campaigns that are product specific. This is my sweatshirt one, which I started with because of the high price of a sweatshirt, $70+. And it's done pretty well. It's a cost per purchase of 52. ROAS is 1.56. And I feel like it's done even better than that the last couple weeks. And then lastly is my sales campaign for the National Park Week. I launched that BOGO that I mentioned. So this has only been running since last Saturday, and it will turn off on Monday or Sunday, in 2 days it'll turn off. 17 cost per purchase. So like half of all the other ones. And then 3.57 ROAS, which
Okay.
compared to how I normally run, which feels like 1.5 ROAS is kind of my average. If that, like that's my good ROAS, which is not, this is below my target. That's twice that, more than twice that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But frequency is a little bit higher than the other ones. And that's the other thing with Facebook ads. There's like 1,000 different metrics to look at. And so I try and pay attention just to the most crucial ones because you could analyze yourself to death with Facebook ads. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm sitting.
Is the DPA, is that within an ASC, or is that what is that broad audience?
Yeah, it looks like it's an ASC. It is pretty much all of mine are broad.
Yeah.
And I pretty much do all broad targeting, but yeah, it's an ASC.
Yeah, I haven't done much of that actually. I think it makes a lot of sense for you, especially as you've got quite a large catalog. I think it can be pretty good. But yeah, I think I need to try and look at that again and see if it works for us. But yeah, you've got quite a few campaigns going then. That's more than me.
I know. I probably will phase out a couple of them as I move more into campaigns specific for products because it feels like that's starting to work. And then the sales campaign will turn off on Sunday. So I'll probably be down to like, and I'm not sure about the cost cap and actually my bid cap is in here too. The bid cap is on, and it's operating at it's hardly hitting $100 spent in the last 30 days, 2.3 ROAS. So like when it hits, it does well, but it doesn't often hit. And so part of me is thinking, well, maybe I just leave those cost controlled campaigns on, but maybe that's splintering the audience too much. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I don't think even God knows the answer to that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I will say I'm also running a lot of boost campaign posts because I do a lot of organic stuff and a lot of my traffic is organic. I do boost a lot of my posts for like a week at a small dollar spend. And that feels like people shouting at each other like, this is totally right, this is totally wrong. So, but I think it definitely works to grow your Facebook followers. I've seen that for sure. And so that's kind of, I treat that in some ways as a funnel.
yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I haven't done much of that, but that's really true. I've also seen big fluctuations just with conversion-based campaigns between followers, and like there'll be months where followers just go crazily up or not crazy, but they go up a lot from just ads, and other months where like it doesn't seem to make any difference at all. Like, and no one's following after an ad. So I don't know why that's the case either. Maybe something to do with the algorithm, but yeah. Okay. Well, should I get into ours? I mean, mine will be a little bit quicker
Yeah,
because
let's open your
yeah.
book.
Open the books. It literally is though, because I mean, like this is where all our money gets spent. So I mean, I say that
Yeah.
we're spending less. We're spending less. I spent more in the past. I mean, I think the most, I say it a lot. I mean, the most I probably spend a month is like maybe 20,000 or something, and I don't think I spend that often. But so yeah, the last 30 days, my average ROAS is 1.89. But I've only spent about, because we have a lot of restocks the last few weeks, so I've kind of been doing a lot of email stuff with that. A lot of sales have come from that, so I haven't had to spend that much. So I maybe spent only 10 grand or something in the last 30 days, which is less than usual, I would say. But I've always got 2 campaigns running only. I've been pretty much like running one campaign. So, and I don't think it's necessarily right, but I've been basically like running like an ASC and filtering in new creative, and not, because our products are all around the same AOV, kind of like $200, a little bit under, a little bit above. I haven't actually done a whole lot of segmenting by product in terms of campaign, for rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But I have an ASC that it's got like, that's like our main like sort of like business as usual, like just no sale kind of campaign, which I just constantly putting new creatives into, And I'm always like, most of the time I leave them on, in fact, and I don't know if that's the right approach, whether just leave them on and just try and trump them with new creatives and not turn them off, or whether to turn some off. I occasionally turn one off if it's just doing like terribly. But I always find just most of them don't get much spend, and most will get spent in ASC specifically. A lot of it gets spent between like 2 or 3 ads. And so that's got like a what is a cost per purchase, $119 cost per purchase, but obviously we're at a 1.5 ROAS, so obviously we're high AOV, so we can get away with it a little bit. That's still not where I'd want it to be. And then I've also been running like a normal CBO broad campaign with many ad sets in fact, but only segmented by country, and that's because we're launching a new bag for pre-order, and I just thought, well, this is a very different type of offer here, so I want to do this in a specific campaign. I spent a lot more money on that campaign, but that's actually been doing really well. It's got a 2.2 ROAS at the moment. It was at a 6 at one point, but I've kind of
Wow.
I've done a lot of exclusions in terms of like don't want anyone on an email list getting these ads, or I've even removed like, so when you're setting up an ad and you can choose like all the AI creative optimizations that Meta offers. Usually I leave most of those on, if not all of them on. Just I feel like, well, why not?
I hate this.
I hate them as well, but I just like, well,
might as well.
I don't know what, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, a lot of them I don't like as well, but the one I've turned off is the catalog one, because I was just getting tons of sales. I had a special landing page for this this pre-order
That's
product.
how they were finding them. Okay.
I think that's how this. Yeah.
Add in the Slack. Huh.
Yeah, I was mentioning this in the Slack group. So basically what was happening is I was trying to get pre-orders for a new bag, and it was just bringing in sales of every other product but that product. And I was trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And it was like a 6 ROAS as well. So I was thinking like, I'm not seeing this for a long time. What is going on? And should I even touch this? I got to the point when I was like, I really need to start selling this other bag. So I need to do something about this. And so I took away I thought it must be that, like they must be seeing other products. So I took the catalog away from all the ads, and I've also created more ad sets because I wanted to test it in different countries. So that's what another ad sets are for. So basically it's CBO, and I've got like US maybe in Canada in one ad set, and the UK and maybe Europe in another ad set. And we actually have a lot of customers in Asia as well, in like Singapore, Hong Kong, places like that. So I've been testing audiences there. Because they've usually got like fairly high buying power, but it's also a lower CPM than is in the US. And also we do a lot of production in Asia, so it kind of makes sense in some ways. So so that's been doing pretty well, and the pre-orders started to go up a little bit. So, I mean, not where I'd like it to be. I'm still getting sales of other products, but it is what it is. And so it's actually not a terrible time for me. I think I was looking back at like historically, and I'm like a 0.9, 1.0, 1.1 ROAS throughout the year, which is obviously not where I want it to be. And it just depends. But I also was going to say, I see a lot of, I think with our product, a lot of sales happen after 30 days. So if I turn off the campaign and a few weeks later, it'll still be reporting sales through that campaign. So I'll still see sales come through that campaign, even though it's been off for a couple of weeks. And I think it's because like Meta's attributed to that first touch when they saw that ad 6 weeks ago. So it's really hard to measure, because I think a lot of our sales specifically are very delayed. But yeah, I think that's what I've been seeing at the moment. But I think it is really tough. And I think the next thing I suppose to talk about before I don't know how we're doing for time actually. Well, actually, yeah, we're 43 minutes already. Oh my God. I was just going to say, like, how are you thinking about it in terms of profitability, or like how much to spend and like this year versus you did last year? And I think I spent around 100 grand on ads last year as well. So we're in a similar situation, and I'm kind of interested how you're approaching it this time around.
Punching myself in the face because I did that last year. So I am trying to be hyper vigilant around profitability and contribution margin and like those metrics. And I think this is, I should have given this up front probably when people were listening more intently. Sorry for droning on, but I think one of the biggest takeaways that I'm learning about myself and running this business is like, I can get caught up with seeing the sales numbers and got caught up with like the whole scaling thing, quote unquote. And I hate the word scaling. But it is, and I try and avoid the whole like, I'm going to scale to the moon thing. But there is a certain dopamine hit where it's like, oh, yesterday I got 20 orders, and I was like, wow, that's probably because I've been increasing my sales number, like my sales campaign in Facebook more and more over the last couple of days. And so it's really, really easy to get caught up in those numbers and be like, oh yeah, the sales are going up, the sales are going up. And that's where I got trapped last
Yeah.
year. But this year I'm looking more. So I'm using Clio to look at like contribution margin. Using Triple Whale to look at net margin. Like I'm looking at like the numbers that make sense for the business, and like that profitability has been my biggest focus. I'm still lacking, and I'm still like probably not profitable. And that's been my biggest struggle. And I think I also will say with Facebook ads, product is so important. Like
Yeah.
that fleece that I launched a while ago did super well. Best return I've seen. It lifted the entire ad account up. My all my numbers were better across the board because it was getting out there and people were loving it, and then they started loving other things. Um and so it's one of those things where ecom just feels so hard because there's a million different whack-a-mole moles to hit, but product is super important. And so I've been working a lot over the last year or two, over the last probably 6 months, to be honest, not a year or two, on product to try and really improve my products, make sure they're like what people really want. Because at the end of the day, if your product sucks or it's not like highly desirable, which I do make pretty good things, but it's like, well, if no one really wants it, then, and it's only like a couple people really want it, then it's just going to be that much harder to run Facebook ads for it. And I think that's been my issue in the past, is where I try and like make something work that is just not going to work because it's not that desirable, or it's not that many people care about it or want it. That's one of the
Yeah.
biggest takeaways.
I think I was going to say, that's something I was going to say similar, actually. I think I definitely agree. Product is so important. I think you're right that I think like total addressable market and all that sort of stuff is important to an extent. And um, sometimes products aren't particularly well suited for running ads too. But one thing to add to that I've seen this year specifically is because I've been out of stock quite a few times, I've launched a few new products, the newness factor lifts the whole
Mm,
ad account as well. So not just like whether a
mm,
particular product is viable for Facebook ads, but just the fact that you're releasing new things. And just talking about that ad campaign I was saying earlier, is I've seen me drive a lot more sales to products that I've struggled to sell by not promoting them, by promoting a different product. But I think it's this newness factor that just
mhm,
lifts sales overall because it piques people interest. I think that's one thing I think is so important to understand about the ad, like meta in general. Is it is fundamentally social media. We don't see it. We see it like ad dollars in, money, ad dollars out, and whatever it is. But I think the users of it are using social media, and there are things that are people leveraging, and there's like especially if a product is trending at the moment or things like that on social media, you'll generally see a lower ROAS, higher ROAS, like a lower cost of acquisition, because that product is just easier to like pique people's interest with. I think the same thing with like the newness factor, and there's some brands that I've seen that I think do this really well, is that they run ads a lot for new products, but it helps them sell existing products. And so it's not doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. I think there are other people who seem to be running, for same product for the last 3 years, and they're still doing really well. So fair enough to them. But I think for certain categories, it's really important to just try and find ways to. And I think that's why things like creative also is important, because I think it's not so much the. I don't think it's the fact that the creative is better selling your product in many ways. I think it's actually that when something is a little bit more original, it just does better because it piques people's interest, and so your cost of clicks go down, your CPMs go down, and because of that, you're able to generate more. Just the ad can learn better, and then when it's not so original anymore, it doesn't do so well anymore. And so I think that's part of it with Facebook ads, is like leveraging that kind of newness and product launches, and I think it does help overall with like just lifting the business.
yeah, there's definitely a ripple effect to it.
Yeah.
I think we should wrap this up.
Yep.
We're over time. Thank you for hanging with us. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap it up, Jack?
No, I mean, we could talk about it forever, but I think
Yeah.
yeah, also not just to stress ourselves out too much. You can sort of depress
Yeah.
yourself talking too much about meta ads, but yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Maybe we'll dig into the product in a future episode a little bit more, because that's a whole nother thing to unpack. And I think it's actually one of the most important things when running a business, but we'll save that. We'll save it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following along. Give us a review, 5 stars. We'd love it. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Was this too long? Was it too short? We're happy to dig through anything more. Just curious what you're loving out there in the underdog world. But thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.